All right, what's going on? What's going on? Hope everybody is doing well. We are back in business after a couple of weeks that we just got a little busy, y'all. So, thank you for y'all's patience. Thank you for your support. And we are back this week with a new episode of Local Musicians XP. As you can see, I am solo for the moment. My partner in crime, Mr. Tyrone Jackson, is under the weather. So he's trying to sleep this thing off and he's going to try to join us, but he needs to really get some rest. So he may pop in, but we got my man Joe Gransden waiting backstage. We're going to bring him in a second and we're going to get right to everything that you need to know about what's going on with all of us, right? So again, thank you guys for your support. We have some shows that we're just going to quickly kind of talk about, and we got several things actually coming up. So the first thing is this Saturday. Um, Carla Harris has a CD release at the Sandbox Studio South. This is up in Milton, Georgia. This is an interesting. This is a new venue that is in a home. As I have not been there, but I heard it's very cool. They have a stage and backline and um, all that good stuff. So her CD release is going to be up there at 8 o'clock this coming Saturday. That is also going to be it's going to be live streamed on YouTube at the Sandbox South channel. So you guys can check that out. And I'm not sure there's a thing on their page about if you want to attend, but I have a feeling that it's very, very limited seating. But there is if you go to sandboxsouth.com, I believe it is, you can see where if you want to attend a show there, you can hit them up about that. So, but that's all I know. But I think it's limited seating. So, but hit them up if you're interested in coming out Saturday. Otherwise, it will be live streamed, and that will be everybody that's on the record. So that's actually going to be cool. It's myself on drums, Tyrone, of course, on keys, Kelly McCarty on bass, and then all the horn players that played on the record: Sam Skelton, Mace Hibbard, Gordon Vernick, and if I'm missing anybody, please forgive me. But I think that's going to be it. So, all right. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing is the feedback session, which is Tyrone and I coaching the kids is coming up again because that is at the Academy Theater in Hateville, 6:30 to 8:30. Who took that picture, man? Who took that picture? That's crazy. That's crazy. But that's basically how we treat the kids right there. If you look at that picture, that lets you know basically how we interact with them. So if they get out of line a little bit, act up, want to talk back, this is what they get back. And I'm completely kidding about that. But we don't yell at the kids, only if necessary. But we will be back this in 2 weeks, 2 Sundays on the 28th. And that cover, I think, is $15. It was very well supported last time, so we hope to even have more support for it this week. Everybody, we put all the groups together a couple days ago. So we got 4 bands coming at you. We got an adult group, and then we might have 5 because we have an adult group, and then I think we have 4 groups of students that are going to play together. So it's growing. Last time, I think we only had 2 or 3 groups of kids, but now we've got 4. I keep saying kids; they're not kids; they're young adults. Most college kids and college guys and high school. So, but they're going to be playing some tunes. We actually made the stuff a little bit more difficult this time, and then we added everybody has to play a blues, and then everybody has to play something just a little bit tricky. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And that's going to be September 28th at the Academy Theater down in Hayfield. So hit them up if you want to buy advance tickets on that. And then let's see, what's the third order of business is going to be? We have Frankie Quinones and I have another, the second installment of Introduction to Latin Rhythms, and that's coming up November 2nd. So getting a real big head start on this one. Going to pack that place out. The last one was super well received, and we want to make this one, of course, better, just like we have with the feedback session. So, but we'll be covering some different stuff than we did last time. We covered a lot of Puerto Rican rhythms and a little bit of introductory Cuban rhythms last time. This time we're going to cover Brazilian, a little bit more advanced Cuban stuff, and then we're going to throw in also some stuff from the Dominican Republic, and then also maybe a couple of percussion compositions that we're working on. So come down for that November 2nd. Hopefully we're going to have my man Kina Boto and his tribe, the Aya drummers, come out and play again. And that's to be determined, but we are working on that. So, all right. So, other than that, man, it has been super busy, and just had a great session last night with our man Darren English, all the way from South Africa, came and hung out. Had quite a few special guests last night. The great Scotty Wright, great vocalist from Florida, was there, and he sang his tail off. He's really, 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 really great. Love him. And then the normal crew that came out and sat in. So thanks everybody for coming, sitting in, making Napoleon's all that it is, and that's always a great session on Monday. So, all right, man. So without further ado, we are going to bring in my brother, the hardest working man in Roswell, as you can see, as he sits there and drinks out an alcoholic beverage for your enjoyment, as he's lounging back in his man, what is it?
Man, I kind of lost you there. Your audio kind of clicked off. But
Roasting you. It was roasting you.
yeah, I don't know what happened. I couldn't hear you. Must have had the not funny.
So in other words, you heard every minute, man. We just look, man. I've been playing with this cat. We got to be going on almost 20 years, man. I mean, we've been in the battlefield together. We just got back from Charlotte, North Carolina. We did a show up there in Middle C. Rode up and rode back. So man, we are like, any chance we get, guys. This is what you tell young cats: when you form these kind of relationships, nothing is off limits. So what else can you do except crack on each other? That's about all you got, man. So we try to have fun and keep it light, and just play some great music, man. But good to see you. It seems like I saw you yesterday.
I just saw you yesterday, man. That's right. And I think it's more than 20. I think it's 30 years. I remember I had just turned 20 and you were 48.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But you look 60. So how does that work, man?
Was Tyrone's not told you wasn't feeling good? I just saw him at the grocery here in Roswell. Nuts.
I know he was lying. You know he was lying. Nah, man, he's a little under. So he's been taking it to the limit, as you know, with his with all the stuff he's working on. So so you got to deal with me, man. So listen,
yes, sir.
We had looking forward to this conversation. We're going to talk of course, about the new project that you've got going on with doing the music of Chuck Mangione. And I've been a Chuck Mangione fan since I was a kid, but of course now going through and really playing some of this stuff, it's like it's even more potent than I remember, just even as a listener. Because sometimes, man, I don't know how you feel about this, but sometimes it's very rare that you enjoy playing the same music that you listen to, or vice versa, right? Like, but this is music. Chuck's music is music that I dig, and like playing it is even more fun. What do you think about that?
Well, growing up, I heard it all the time. I grew up in Buffalo. He's in Rochester his whole life, and I always thought that it was elevator music, and it's not that I didn't like it. I just didn't put it in the same category because I was kind of a young punk. as what I was listening to, which might have been Chet and Miles and all the greats back then.
Hmm.
I had a few chances to meet Chuck. I did. I went and heard his brother's big band in Rochester back in the day when I was a kid. I went with my teacher Jeff Jarvis and sat there at the bar and drank a Coke and had some chicken wings and listened to the band play. And Chuck would come in and sit in with his brother in the band, and I shook his hand one time, and I always knew it was cool stuff. But it wasn't until recently when I tried to learn how to play it that I realized it's. I mean, the cat can play the flugelhorn first of all.
No doubt.
That's not. It's not easy to play the flugelhorn in the register that he played it in. He wrote some incredibly beautiful, memorable melodies. So now, getting to learn the music and trying to play it and trying to play a whole show of it, it's the to me it's the real stuff, and I think that's part of the reason why it was so popular.
I mean, we'll talk about this as the conversation goes on, man. But I kind of titled this show "The Seeds of Smooth Jazz," and there's many cats that I feel like are the forefathers of that sound. Chuck is one of them. Uh, Joe Sample is another one. Grover Washington Jr. Um, I made a little bit of George Benson, Bob James, like all these guys are the forefathers of this sound. But what made them, I think, so heavy and so deep, man, was that they were legit bebop guys first
Mhm.
before they transitioned into having to make a living, right? Because this whole genre, when you think about what was going on in the 70s and then the 80s, straight ahead wasn't really selling very much. So these guys had to find something. But what they did was they brought the same values and principles of what they were doing when they were still playing bebop to the groove thing. And then, like you just said, man, you just touched on the most important thing, which is melody. People can sing the stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made Chuck and George Benson, because both of those guys are heavy bebop cats. I mean, I'm gonna have you, Chuck. People don't know, but Chuck played with Art Blakey in the
Mm.
Jazz Messengers,
Yeah.
and I'll have you talk a bit more about that. But I think the substance is what separates those guys from like kind of what's going on, with the stuff now. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. I mean, a lot of musicians can come up with a groove and kind of blow over it and play over it and have something funky happen, but very few of them can write melodies that the entire world can fall in love with. You know what I mean? Um, Especially when it's a guy like Chuck Mangione, who, like you said, was a bebop trumpet player, played with Blakey, had his own group with his brother, and I went back and listened to some of that stuff, and it's. I mean, I know why he was a messenger. He could play. He could
Right.
really play, man. And he kind of had a. I could tell he loved Lee Morgan. I could
Yeah.
tell that for sure. I could tell he loved Blue Mitchell. You could tell, so you see that kind of growth that he had. He finished with Blakey and the Messengers, and then his brother and he put a band together. And then I think what I'm learning is that he wanted to go to New York and he wanted to write his own music and see if he could kind of make it in that realm. And he wrote a few of these songs and they kind of hit, and he got thrown into that worldwide recognition where you have to write songs over and over again that are memorable to stay up on top like that. Kenny G kind of went into that same. Kenny G wasn't necessarily a bebop player, but Kenny G wrote those melodies that everybody fell in love with, and instantly this guy was all over the world. Well, Chuck,
Mhm.
Chuck before Kenny kind of had that same vibe, and if you listen to those Mangione records, the live versions, he does play those melodies and the band does groove hard, but then he solos, he blows, and sometimes he's playing bop over that stuff, and sometimes he's playing groove music, and he's extremely talented. So we all heard, not we all, but people our age and older, we all heard "Feels So Good" on the radio all the time, and it was cool, but it didn't move us maybe like Kind of Blue did or Sketches of Spain or some of those things. But it doesn't mean that it's not incredible music, and I'm really learning that now, and I'm sorry at 54 years old that I didn't spend more time with him when I had the chance to kind of meet him and ask him questions and be around him. Rochester is 45 minutes, maybe an hour from Buffalo, and he was right there my whole life. And
Right.
you know,
Right.
so
Right. But
I'm thrilled.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I'm just completely thrilled to know this music. You know, we were talking at the Middle C the other day about how these days, unless you're a huge name in the music industry, in the jazz industry, you're kind of doing concerts. A lot of concerts that you do are tribute concerts to other musicians.
Mhm.
Some that have passed, some that are still here that are just so bad that you just want to pay homage to those guys and gals. But what it's doing for us is we're learning the music. We're learning the music of all these different acts that we're paying tribute to. I would have never known some of these Chuck Mangione songs and until I kind of dove into it. We you know we're having some fun with this music, aren't we?
I mean, man, you know, I have so many things that run through my head, just learning the music and then, shedding the music and then playing the music. And one of the things is as a drummer, again, man, it's drummer friendly music, man. It's all the rhythms that he was using. He loved the Latin stuff. He
Mm.
loved the Latin rhythms, man. It's doesn't it seem like every tune ends up somewhere in that vein, where it's not like a pure form thing. It's how those cats were interpreting everything as kind of one sound. We've gotten so specialized over the years of this is Cuban, this is Brazilian, this is Dominican, and I feel like that's important to know just as an artist and if you're studying the stuff. But ultimately, what you want is to come up with your own idea of how to meld some of this stuff together, and that's really what all those cats were doing back then. They didn't have YouTube and or VHS, instructional tapes of cats breaking down. Okay, this is how you play the Cuban such and such. So they're just hearing the music and then interpreting it and putting it in their own original music, man. And I'm just like having a ball, man, because it's like almost every tune is a drum solo. That's
Yeah,
how I mean. It's like there's always, and what you found out is what I found. I was like, man, I gotta get my stamina up to play this show because it is moving. It is moving. You know.
yeah. I'm playing this instrument every day. I'm running the show twice a day just to build up the muscle strength because not only did he play the flugelhorn, but he played it. All those melodies are in the upper register for a flugelhorn, a high C, a high D, a high E flat. That's not easy to play unless you're a really special kind of specialized musician, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm working hard at it, and like you said, almost everything is kind of somewhat of a Latin vibe. It's one of those things where and you can name them on one hand. You hear Chuck, you know it's Chuck. You hear Come On, you know it's Chuck. You know it's Kenny. You know it's Chris Bodie. You know it's Miles Davis. There's not too many horn players that you can say that about, and Chuck was one of them for sure.
Right. Yeah. He developed his own sound with his own cats. You know,
Hmm.
with cats from his area, and they just had a vibe.
Yeah.
And so that's just there's so many great things about his music. But man, can you tell people just a little bit about? I know you broke down he's from Rochester. Seems like you got a lot of friends and mutual acquaintance from in that area.
Hmm.
Steve Gadd, the great drummer, uh, who is one of the all-time greats, uh, played with Chuck at a period of his life early on. So there's a lot of connections, man, to a lot of bad cats. But what do you, just as you study uh about where Chuck is from and that scene and stuff, what was that scene like, man? Do you know anything about like what that scene was like when he was kind of coming up?
Yeah, man. Well, when he was coming up, I don't know a whole lot about that. I know that he went to Eastman School of Music, and I know that he left when he graduated. He left and he came back, and I'm 90% sure he started the jazz program there. If it wasn't for Chuck Mangione, there might not be a jazz program at Eastman School of
Wow.
Music. And he stuck around Rochester for a little while. But I grew up in the '80s in Buffalo. My father is still a great piano player, but he was on that scene in Buffalo. And Buffalo is so close to Rochester. Buffalo had so many fantastic musicians. A lot of those guys would travel to Rochester on the weekends to play gigs. So there was a lot of interaction between those two scenes, and the scene in Buffalo was insane, man. It just from Sammy Nota to Dave Chavone to Spider Martin, I mean, you could just keep going on with the names of the great musicians and the love for jazz that that city has. I just played there a few weeks ago. It to me
Mhm.
has changed. The love for the music is there in Buffalo, and I think that the same thing is true in Rochester. And I think that Chuck got so much um, acclaim from being a messenger that when it was time for him to do his own thing and write his own music, he kind of had a something to stand on. And you know, I'm Chuck Mangione. I'm a jazz messenger. So listen to my new songs. Listen to my new record. Book me to your club.
Mhm.
He might have really benefited in that respect from being with Art Blakey. But from the musical standpoint, you can really tell that he like you and I talk about all the time, put in the time. He shed. He could play. He could really play that music. You could tell he loves the music that we love. Uh, I also noticed, you know, I'm younger than Chuck. He just passed away in July. He's 84. I'm 54, so I'm quite a bit younger. But a lot of the guys that he influenced that went to Eastman, like Jeff Tyzik, who's an amazing conductor, but back in the day was one of the greatest trumpet players and composers around. Probably still is. I don't know if he plays trumpet much anymore. Alan Vizzuti, Doc Severinsen, who's would be older than Chuck, but that's all part of that kind of that scene and that circle.
Okay.
I go
Okay.
back and I listen to Jeff Tyzik records from the 80s. I love Jeff,
Yeah.
man. I love his writing. And he's playing these melodies. Now I know where he got the vibe because it sounds like a Chuck Mangione song with Jeff's
Wow.
twist on it. Al Vizzuti back in the day had a couple kind of commercial poppy kind of records, and you go back and listen to them, and it's the flugelhorn, it's Latin groove with a pop,
Mhm.
and so I know that they absolutely adored that guy's music and kind of what he came up with, and they also they're not dumb. They know if these melodies are selling, let me write a similar melody and see if I can sell something. I mean, they get it. And I also read, Chris, that I
Right.
also read that Chuck Feels So Good was so popular that the record companies basically kept saying to him, "You got to write another song
Yeah.
like
That's exactly.
keep coming up with ideas in that same
Yeah,
vein."
they're chasing. Right. Yep.
Song we do, doing everything with you. That song, "You're the Best There Is." They're all kind of in a similar key, and they all kind of have a similar tempo. But then he's got like "Children of Sanchez." He wrote for that movie. He's
Right.
got what's the one we like so much? "Give It All You Got" that he wrote for the
Oh, you
Olympics.
got it.
I mean, that's some great writing, and you could do it with a quintet. You could do it with a full orchestra.
Right.
Serious stuff.
Man, you know, again, it's I'd love to have a conversation with the cat because just as you said, man, he was thrown into pop stardom. Coming from a jazz musician's perspective, that had to be like, what is going on right now? Because that song, I remember that song just as a kid, it was everywhere, man. It was every TV show, every you couldn't get away from it.
Yeah.
And so it would be interesting to hear because you know when you hear stories of rock bands or pop bands or R&B bands or soul bands or whatever, once they come up with a hit, that record company is pressuring you into, hey man, you got this is it. You got to find another. You got to, and you can't explain where that song comes. It's not like he went into a chemistry lab and was like had this formula of it. Just that's what happened on that particular
Mhm,
time that he wrote that tune
mhm,
and whatever influenced him to write that tune. So, but I can tell you, man, I just know I'm pretty sure that the fatigue of trying to chase that had to just be drained. Like you almost wish you never came up with it, probably
well,
because
I think they all deal with that. I think anybody, whether it's a Tony Bennett with San Francisco or
yeah,
Sinatra in New York, they all have to come back to that. And as much of a wonderful life that it's given all these great artists that come up with hit records and hit songs, they would never change that. But at the same time, they want to play different music too. They want to play with different musicians sometimes. And you know we can't. I certainly can't get into the head of a Chuck Mangione or a Kenny G or somebody that wrote all these great hits. I'm kind of from where my perspective, I'm begging for something like that to happen with one of my songs. Once it actually happens, I mean, think about Chuck Mangione. He was able since 1974 or 5 or 6, he was able to tour almost worldwide
Right.
until he decided he didn't want to tour anymore, just on 5 or 6 hits.
Just yeah, really on that one tune.
Really on that one tune, and then the few, the ones that came after that. But
Yeah, yeah.
I remember Branford Marsalis telling me that um, why don't we? I'm not going to get it exactly right, so I don't mean to misquote the guy, but he's basically saying that why don't we listen to a lot of newer records that come out today, but we still go back and listen to Train and Dexter,
Hmm.
Jet?
Hmm.
It's because those guys played melodies. They
Yep.
improvised melodies.
Yep.
In fact, they improvised so many melodies that we sing those melodies back and we try to cop them on our horns. We're
Right.
not necessarily transcribing all the new young musicians that are coming out. Not that they can't really kill it, but
Pull
there's
it
something
right.
about those melody players that,
Not melody, man. It's not melody. It's not melody at all.
yeah,
It's and every generation has its thing. It is what it is. But melody, man, will it just you can you have a great melody and you really don't all you need is support around that melody, you know.
well, I'll tell you, man, you're getting some cool comments from some cats, man. Randy Child, he was at the Hollywood
Yeah.
Bowl when Chuck cut the album at the Hollywood Bowl, and he was one of his idols for his lyrical solos. So I'll tell you a cool story. When I was growing up in Buffalo, one of my local heroes was a guy named Jeff Jarvis, who's a great friend of mine to this day. He runs the jazz program at the University of California, Long Beach, and he's a great trumpet player and a great composer and a great jazz trumpet player. And when I was a kid, when I was 16, 17 years old, I would take a lesson from him every Saturday. And we would go to his house, and my lesson would be at 9 a.m. And I'd show up, I'd knock on the door, his girlfriend would answer. He'd still be sleeping from the Latin gig he had the night before. I'd wait around till about 10:30. He'd wake up, we'd have coffee, we'd have breakfast. We'd play trumpet for 2 hours. Then he'd take me out on his boat on Lake Erie. We'd water ski. And then at the end of the thing, I'd give him $20. And not only did I get a trumpet lesson, but I got a life lesson. So this
Right,
guy,
man.
Jeff,
Right.
could play smooth jazz and still can. And he wrote these songs that he would release on these albums that I would play over and over and over again. To this day, I can't get enough of the melodies that he wrote. And now at 54, like an idiot, I didn't do this when I was 16, 17, 20, whatever it was. I'm realizing that Jeff was very much influenced by Chuck. Jeff used to play in the big band with Gat Mangione, and Jeff's the one that took me there when I met Chuck that one time. So sometimes those super famous guys and gals don't realize it, but the generation below them is listening and learning, and whether they're trying to write for their own benefit or they're trying to write because they're actually hearing these melodies and are in love with the music that's coming before them. Who really knows? But Chuck is a major influence on not only composing but horn players.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Randy, for these great comments. He says I'm current friends with his drummer, James Bradley Jr. It's a bad dude, man. I have tried to contact James. If you have a connect, Randy, if you could connect us, that would be great. I would love to bring him on the show and talk drums, because that cat is just another one of these unsung guys, man. Joe, you mentioned Children of Sanchez, which is a
Yeah,
heavy tune.
yeah.
The opening snare drum part
Mm.
of that tune. I so when I first tried to learn that, I could hear where the accents are and stuff, and so I was kind of just trying to kind of cop it, and I thought I kind of had it, and kind of play it, and but then I went and I I I saw a video. I can't remember where it's from, but it has a real close up of my man, his snare drum technique, and I was like, oh, I got some work to do on this, because there's some super intricate stuff that I'm still working on. Really, I'm not pulling it out on the show yet because I'm just not comfortable. I mean, I'm kind of got it about, I would say about 75 to 80% right now, but there's some really interesting sticking things that he does. And it just brought me to hearing people talk about that tune. And that tune got famous because all the marching bands, it's just as Atlanta Blue Notes right here, John Lamontina talked about, all the marching bands from across the country, Joe, were playing that
Mhm.
tune.
Yeah.
So another Chuck Mangione, just like global hit, man, with all the marching bands playing Children of Sanchez.
Yeah. And
So
I didn't know that that song was what he was hired to write the music for the movie The Children of Sanchez, starring Anthony Quinn in I think 1978. And Chuck wrote all the music for that movie. That's the theme song and that's the big hit. But to sit down as a touring superstar and have to score a whole movie, that's a whole nother set of muscles and a whole
right,
nother set
right,
of
right,
coming up
right,
with it. And that song, as soon as you go, man, everybody knows it. I mean, how cool is that to have something that
right.
recognizable that quick? And it's fun to play. Now you're talking about working on that snare. What you were watching, was that James Bradley Jr. playing?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. See,
Hmm.
that's just absolutely killing. So that was a fun one to learn for sure, man.
Uh, I just and I was like, man, who's this cat? Because really, I did not know about James Bradley Jr. I thought Steve Gadd was on those other like Feel So Good because
Mhm.
he kind of has that a Gadd type of feel on some of the parts that are reminiscent of what is that when that tune 76 77 I can't remember when that tune came something around there, right? Like
And I think the movie was 78, so yeah, somewhere down.
yeah, well, Feel So Good was what 76 something like that. Brian can look that up for us when to see when Feel So Good, but there's a sort of a Steve Gadd, one of the innovators of definitely modern drum set and taking a rudimental approach to the drum set and coming up with all of these grooves. So 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover by Paul Simon, that's Steve Gadd, signature Steve Gadd thing. But with James Bradley Jr., you can tell that he's influenced by again another Rochester cat, which was Steve Gadd, and how he's playing on Feel So Good. So yeah, man. But the music, I hope people and I hate that it always takes someone passing to kind of go, oh man, that cat was,
Yeah, yeah.
and we're all guilty. I mean, even though I dug it, I didn't know. You don't really know until you dig into somebody's catalog of
Right.
how deep they are, man. So let's talk. So we got the show coming up. Your show coming up next Tuesday. That's going to be at Eddie's Attic, and the Land of Make Believe, music of Chuck Mangione. I love that title. Uh, that's another tune, Land of Make Believe. It's like, man, it's just another epic Latin fusion odyssey.
With
Like
lyrics, with great lyrics.
with great lyrics, great melody to open, and then they blow. It's like there's nothing better than that, man. When you got all of those great components going, and were you surprised at how well because you're like a serious diehard bebop cat, but then you've also studied a lot of the crooners. You studied Tony Bennett and Frank Sinatra and their music, which is different than bebop, but still just as just even still killing and has all of the weight of all that stuff. But were you surprised how well Chuck Mangione's thing fit into what you wanted to do? Because I think maybe when you were getting into, you were like, I'm gonna play, but then you're finding these vocal tunes, you're finding all these melodies. Like, how did that sort of like make you feel when you're like, man, this guy fits what I do? You know?
Well, it goes back a little ways. It's I have a habit of having something in my mind that I want to do musically, and I kind of shut down and I don't take a lot of input from other people, and that's something I'm trying to work on. But I remember in the year 2000, I was about 30 years old or 29 years old, and I got a call from a record company in New York called Rhapsody Records, and they wanted to produce a record for me. And they asked me what I wanted to do and who would I like in the band. It was going to be recorded in Buffalo. And I specifically, I remember I requested Russell Malone on guitar. And the guitar was one of the few chairs that they had picked. And they said, well, we're sorry, we love Russell, but we got Grant Geisman. And Grant was Chuck's guitar player forever. All those records, that's Grant Geisman playing guitar. So I show up in the studio and I have to record a record, and here's Grant, and he was very accommodating, very cool. He knew I was a young musician, kind of coming up and learning. We made this really, really cool record, but I really enjoyed the times on break and the dinners and the hangs in between recording when I could hear Grant talk about Chuck. And I remember those stories, and I remember how kind of interesting they were. And but it wasn't like, to me, once again, he wasn't talking about Miles Davis. He was talking about Chuck Mangione, who was great. Don't get me wrong, but I just didn't connect like I would if it was.
Right.
And then push it back. Now it's 2008 or 9, and I'm very lucky to be with Kenny G, and he's producing my record, and I'm with him in his studio in Malibu, and David Foster walks in his house. Kenny and I are sitting there, and we're going through some songs that we had written, and Foster knocks on the window. He lives right down the street from him. He walks in, and he was saying hi to Kenny, and they were just talking business, and Kenny introduced me to him. And he said, well, what are you doing here? And I said, well, Kenny's producing a smooth jazz record for me. I'm really a kind of a straight ahead guy, but we're working on this record. And he sat down at the piano and he said, man, you should remake Feel So Good. And so David Foster's telling me in 2009, you should remake Feel So Good. And in my mind, I'm going, what does this guy know? Right. I don't want to do that. I mean, what an idiot, right? And I'm thinking, I don't want to play that song. I'm writing new songs with Kenny G. Yeah, this really happened. This is why yeah, right. That's why I'm still playing the same horn since high school. I can't afford another. But man, he said that, and it wasn't that. I wasn't into it. Like if he said that to me now, if he said, Joe, you should remake the Macarena, man, I'd put on some Macarena clothes and I would go record that song tonight. I was just kind of young and dumb. I would do the Macarena, and I'd do Living La Vida Loca, whatever it is. So I had these opportunities to intermingle, and getting back to your question about how does that relate to me. Well, that Kenny G record I did called Close to My Heart, which is all smooth jazz, I absolutely loved it. I loved it. And since that record, I've been saying to myself, I really need to put an electric band together or a smooth jazz band together where we swing, we play some strip, but we do that. And so now I'm going to do this tribute to Chuck Mangione. Who am I going to get? Of course, I'm going to get Chris Burroughs. Of course, I'm going to get the guys. Amra Kotan's going to play with us at Eddie's Attic. Joel Powell, right? So we did this show in at the Middle C the other night. And besides the rehearsal, it's the first time we kind of really ran everything. And I'm on stage going, man, this is cool. And this is really right up my alley. I could go in any direction, and I just love music so much. So I don't know where this is going to take me. My goal when I first thought about doing this was to do a few local and kind of regional venues, but then maybe make it into a bigger thing. It doesn't have to all be Chuck. It could be a kind of a tribute to the Herb album. It's all such great stuff. But I feel when my lip is in shape, I feel very comfortable with this.
That's right.
I feel very comfortable. And I made the mistake the other night at the Middle C Club. I made the mistake on one of the songs of starting to play a little too much bebop, too early in the song. And I realized, I said, man, you just played the most gorgeous melody that Chuck Mangione wrote. And then you went right into all this, not bullshit, but just notey stuff. Build up to it.
But that's your bag. That's your comfort zone. And so, of course, but man, it's that. And I was the same way, man. The first two tunes I took I was on 10.
I remember you were exhausted after this.
I was like, oh man, I got nowhere to go now.
Like on this gig, or we just go straight?
We doing 2 sets on this? And I'm like looking at the clock. I'm like, oh man, we got a 90-minute show to play. I got like 4 or 5 more solos I got to do. I got to pace myself here. Because
pacing yourself.
If you're not in that frame of mind, we get on our gigs, man. We get to blow hard on maybe one tune sometimes, and then But when you got a whole show of that, you got to rethink. Like, okay, I don't have to give it all. I can do a little bit here, a little bit there. This I can do melody on this. I can do whatever. So it's just a learning experience when you're working a show like this. So it'll get there though. It'll get there.
Another thing I learned, and speaking of pacing yourself, and Randy Ryan Child mentioned he saw the Hollywood Bowl concert live. That song we do called "Doing Everything with You" with that beautiful
Yeah.
melody.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous.
Oh, it's
At the
great.
end of that song, I mean, they don't really even take solos. They wait till the end and they just do the turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
Turnaround on the live record, I'm going to guess, lasts 10 minutes. I don't know.
Exactly.
And it's just
Exactly.
the turnaround. And one
Right.
cat blows and then the next cat. And it builds and builds and builds. So
Right.
it teaches you that, first of all, there's nothing wrong with repetition. um,
Right.
as far as that groove underneath you, and it just gives you this platform to really chill. And now you're soloing, but you're also still trying to come up with nice melodies,
Mm-hmm.
mixed in with some meat, but
Mm-hmm.
I loved at the Middle C after listening to Chuck play that song, because I when I first played that song and learned it off his record, his studio record. There's a long extended thing at the end, but not as long as the live. I was like, man, this song is kind of short. What can we do to make this longer? You added that that 4 bar thing. You added, let's just sit on that for a while. That was great. Where
Mm-hmm.
Trey blows, Trey Wright, and then the ending thing. And actually, the crowd loves it because it just builds and builds and builds, and it puts you in this euphoric state, man. And it's really a fantastic learning experience to be able to do it.
Well, that's one of the things I think that's uh super reminiscent of that period where, man, those cats would vamp. Wow.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
man, there's so much beauty in that, man. Like those long vamp outs, those long fade outs on the record where you're trying to hear every little you're
yeah,
turning your stereo up so you can hear the end of you want to hear every little thing and you're wondering, man, how much further did they go? How much longer is this? Is there like an extended take? Like that's the kind of stuff, man, because it sends people's minds on a journey, and that's another thing that we just don't have now. Everything is short. Oh, you got to get to it. Nobody has any attention span. You just get to whatever you got to get to. Everything has to be 3 minutes and 4 minutes. It's like all of those great records, man. They would have like the first side would kind of be maybe a little bit more like with the hit type things, but then like the second side, there could be like a 20-minute tune on there,
yeah.
or all of that stuff, man. So like it would be cool, man, to do like, you know, Herb Alpert,
Hmm.
Bob, like that whole Larry Carlton, Grove. Like there's like a lot of that music that I think that people would love to hear, because that's it's an interesting period of music, because when I first heard that music, I didn't know what it was. I didn't, because there was no name for it. It was
Hmm.
like, and you would hear it like on the end of a show or like public radio. Like I remember hearing "Give It All You Got" like at the end of like a public radio show from my hometown. They were using that little piece of, just a little piece of the tune, and they would do that with a lot of like Chuck Mangione. That's how Pat Metheny, um,
Just play a
uh,
little clip.
just a little clip, like bumper music, I guess they used to call it. It might be like a radio show, but they were using that. But I never really knew like what I was like. Man, what kind of
Hmm.
what is this? Is this? It's not jet. Is it jet? There was really no name for it, right? And then they came up with like this, I guess, kind of contemporary jazz was the first thing that I remember it
Hmm.
being called. And but that spawned a lot of great music, man. The Yellow Jackets, Spyro Gyra, um, a lot
Brecker
of
Brothers.
great a lot of great bands came out of
Yeah.
doing that kind of stuff, man. So but you have a relationship, man, I think, with the really the father of you know modern smooth jazz, and that's Kenny G, man. And I highly recommend, if anyone hasn't seen his documentary, man, it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
really really great, and it gives you his side of the story, because you never really hear like people, because he's smart, man. He doesn't say anything. You don't need to. It's like, man, I don't have to defend myself for what I do. I do what I do, and if people dig it, they dig it, and if they don't, they don't. But one of the things that I love that he said was, man, I never called my music jazz. He said, I never called it that. He's
Mhm.
like, that's what other people started coming up with, again, trying to categorize everything, right? But his story, I remember I didn't know who he was at the time, but listening to disco music and funk music, and I had this album by this group called GQ,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a huge hit called Disco Nights. It's a huge hit. It's like just past the Saturday Night Fever craze and all of that stuff and all that. I mean, that's some great music too with the Bee Gees and all that. But Disco Nights, man. And if you go and you look on the back of that record, might be the front of the record, but I think it's the back of the record or maybe the inside. There's a young Kenny G
Hmm.
that's in GQ, and that's where he was just playing in those bands, disco bands, R&B bands. Uh, but you know him personally. You got a great relationship with him. Can you tell us a little bit about his transition of making his own music and then just like all of a sudden he's like just everywhere? I remember hearing that song. I can't remember on TV. The song was it Songbird? Was
Yeah.
that his first? So tell us a little bit about Kenny, man. And
Well, I met Kenny at this Clint Eastwood event. My band was going to open up for Kenny G's band out in Carmel, California, and I was very nervous. And I got there, and Kenny's band was on stage sound checking, and my band was going to go up after that and sound check. And Clint was there, and Clint introduced me to Kenny, and he said, "I think you guys should do a duet tonight." And when Clint says that, that really means you guys should do a duet tonight, right? So, when Clint says, "I think you guys should both play a song together," right? So Kenny looks at me like, "Who's this guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to play a song with him." So we played "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," and he played it on tenor. He sounded beautiful, man. And when that was over, and the show was over, the next day we played golf, and he said, "Why don't you come back to Malibu, bring your wife, and hang out, and we'll write some music, and we'll kind of do a little smooth thing." He liked my playing. He was cool. He saw some potential there. So right away I'm spending a lot of time with him, and I asked him a lot of those questions, like how it all happened for him, and I don't remember everything word for word, but he did say that at a very young age he wrote a lot of songs, and he kind of had a little demo tape he recorded them on. He gave them to a couple radio stations. They played them, and it just kind of just blew up. Nobody had heard that sound, that soprano saxophone sound. Nobody had heard those songs because they were his songs. And if you want to really discuss memorable melodies, I mean, instrumentally, there's almost nothing better. Kenny G to me is I love the guy. He practices his horn all day long, and he'll send me licks that he comes up with, and he'll say, "Joe, learn this in every key and send it back," and then send me one, and I'll send him a Freddie Hubbard lick that I learned from some record, and he'll learn it in every key and send it back. And sometimes we do that back and forth, and he is proficient, man, and he takes it very seriously. He doesn't play around. He wants every note the way he wants it. He wants his sound when he's in a theater. He wants his sound to not be like he wants his own soundman there because they know what he's supposed to sound like. He's very particular about everything that he does. He's super healthy. He's super friendly. He's super encouraging. But to watch him practice when his facility is just amazing, and obviously he's made a great living and probably doesn't need to work, but wants to get better every single day. Like when I would stay with him, I would, we'd get up in the morning and I'd say, "Hey man, let's go play golf," because he's got a golf membership at a beautiful country club. And he would say, "Yeah, we'll play today, but first I got to work out." So he's working out. I'm having 3 omelets and a half a loaf of bread. And then and then he comes back from working out. "All right, let's go play golf." "Yeah, man, I got to practice." Then he go practice for 2 or 3 hours. Now I'm eating lunch. So, by 4 o'clock, I'm taking a nap. I gained 7 pounds. He's like, "Let's go play golf." I'm like, "Dude, I want to have a scotch and go to sleep." I'm telling you, man, he is one dedicated cat. And when we recorded this record's called that I did with him, it's called "Close to My Heart." And the title track is "Close to My Heart," right? And so Kenny was saying to me, "Let's come up with a melody based on kind of what David Foster said. Let's come up with a melody that's, all the great trumpets melodies have pickup notes going into them, like ba da da biddy doody, or how does Rise go? Those pickup notes." So Kenny said, let's come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So "Close to My Heart" that we do in this Chuck Mangione tribute show it's got that pickup note. Boo doo 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 dee dee.
Wow. Check. Right.
And Kenny wrote that first part of that song. That's him. He wrote that, and when we kind of collaborated with him and his producer after that. But that's where that all came from. That's why we do it in this show, and we just kind of. And it actually is a beautiful song. It was never a hit for me or anything like that, but it got a lot of radio airplay, and people recognize that melody and can remember it. It's a gorgeous melody.
That's
So
super interesting, man. The pickup notes. It just hit me with that.
yeah, right.
I right.
I mean, it's not,
But
but it's
but again, for David Foster to be hip to that, like there's no there's no accident, man, why people are good at what they're good at,
right.
because they know the game,
Yeah.
and that's the thing for me is like you have so many people that just try to jump on something, right? Which I think has a lot to do with what has happened to smooth jazz. Smooth jazz used to be it used to have a lot of credibility to it because there were guys like Kenny or Chuck or whoever that were serious music serious about what they were doing, man. And it wasn't just oh, I can do this, a flavor of the month, and then basically play like some instrumental R&B and call it, and then want to be and dance around and act like you're like legit. Like it's I mean George Duke, all the proficient genius musicians, man, who really developed a template for this music. It's like, where is the just the man, the honor. That's the thing for me, is like the honor of man. I need to know my stuff. I want to, I need to study. I mean, that was one of the things about checking out the Kenny G doc was he said he practices 3 hours a day. Like,
He really
because I
does.
practice 3 hours a day, man. I don't I don't play around with that, you know.
Even
And
on the road, Chris. Even on the road, in the bus. If the
that's
gig's at 7 p.m. and the sound check's at 4, he's there at noon, and he's in the hall and he's practicing, and it's amazing to watch. There's a spot during his show where he breaks it down and does more of a bossa nova thing, kind of almost a Stan Getz tribute. And he'll play like Desafinato, or he'll play a few of those, and he plays tenor, and it's beautiful, man. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous playing. So he's obviously he's looked at that stuff too. But he said to me what he said in the documentary. He wrote some songs, they hit, and all of a sudden he was on the road playing those songs. He never said, I'm a jazz saxophone player, I'm a classical saxophone player, I'm a pop musician, I'm a smooth musician. He's just a composer that happens to play the saxophone very well. He wrote these beautiful songs, and the people put him in these compartments, and then he kind of has to deal with the people that love him and the people that don't like him. He honestly, he doesn't care. He loves music, and he loves playing music, and as long as he can make a living doing it, he's happy.
man, people forget Miles Davis covered
Hmm.
Cyndi Lauper and Michael Jackson, and Miles in the 80s on You're Under Arrest. They, covered Human Nature. I
Hmm.
mean, there's nothing again, why? Because those are great songs with great melodies, man. You know, and again, nothing wrong with with the beat, with the bop and all that, and everybody still, all those cats. I mean, Miles had kind of moved on to a much different sound, by really the 80s, the early 80s, and with Marcus Miller, starting to be a part of his thing. And then later on, the big record with Tutu, and just, but that again, the quality and the heaviness of what Tutu, man, was a game changer, man.
Hmm.
And even though it had, you know, people want to say whatever, it was more commercial or it was more contemporary, whatever, but those cats were breaking ground in what they were doing and still had a lot of substance because there's great musicians in there. The writing was great. Marcus Miller's production was is again is something that became what everybody else kind of wanted to do. You
Mhm.
know, so there's nothing. I always chuckle, man, when people call certain cats a sellout or whatever. It's like, well, at some point you got to kind of move on to why would you stay all of our heroes. Coltrane didn't stay doing the same thing. Miles didn't stay. You have to move on and do something. Sometimes you want to do something different, right? Nothing wrong with that.
And I think a lot of that sellout mentality comes from jealousy. You know,
Right.
I think that happens a lot. But my goal with this show, which is next Tuesday, September 23rd, is to really honor this guy's music, but
Mm,
also man up and try to play his music. And it's a challenge for me. And to have Emra and Joel Powell, Dr. Jeff's going to play Hayden and Trey Wright and yourself, it's it's going to be on fire. I mean, the cool thing about the show to me, after we did it the other night for the first time, was that every song has an arc to it, and every song has a melody that the people in the crowd can hear and listen to and remember where they were when they heard that, or remember. But
that's
then then there's that other part of the song where Joel's just doing his thing, you're doing your thing, and somebody had mentioned, maybe it was Randy, that don't forget Chuck played through the wah wah pedal, and so I got one of those for this show, right? So I'm trying
mhm.
to learn how to use that. In fact, I was texting with Russell, our friend Russell Gunn, and he was
Yeah,
little advice on how that all happens, because he uses that effect quite a
yeah,
bit.
absolutely.
And once again, at 54, I've never played through one of those pedals,
Right, man.
and I like it, man. One of the things I like about it is once you get that thing happening and you get that sound, you can. It's not really about necessarily what you're playing; it's about the effect and
Right.
the sound that it's making. Like you're not really going to transcribe. Oh, he's not really playing over a C7.
Yeah, 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 right, right, right.
You're just trying to get a vibe. So I think that the show is really, really, really good, and I think we're going to kill it. We also have Jeannie Carreri, who's one of the top flute players anywhere in the country, but happens to live here in Atlanta. She's going to come up and she's going to play the slow version of "Give It All You've Got,"
That's right.
which I heard her do. She's a good friend of mine, but I heard her do it when Chuck died on Facebook. She did a little tribute to him, and it brought tears in my eyes. And so when we put the show together, I was talking to Jeannie. I said, "Would you please come play that?" So she's going to come and do that, and that's gonna
It's beautiful.
the room's going to be silent, man, when she's
Yeah,
playing.
man. Yeah, man.
So I
Looking
want to
forward
sell this
to it.
out. I want people to come and tickets are selling fast. But Eddie's is a beautiful room, a beautiful place with an incredible history. So to fill that hall, to fill that room with "Feels So Good" and "Give It All You Got" and "Doing Everything With You" and "Land of Make Believe" and "Children of Sanchez" and
Yeah,
etc.
man.
is really going to be cool.
Well, Brian, you got the info for that show. Can you pull that up? And so here it is. It's going to be next Tuesday, September 23rd. So we will be off again. Sorry, guys. Next Tuesday, got stuff going on. But 7 p.m. It's going to be one show, right, Joe? And
Yeah, a 190-minute show.
yeah, so 7 p.m. You can get tickets at eddiesattic.com. And come support, man. We're this is I think we've got this thing has got some legs, so it's gonna be around, but don't know how many Atlanta shows that we're gonna do. So come and check this out. It'd be a great experience, especially if you're a fan of that period of music. I know a lot of cats that just love that era of music. So it really is nostalgic. It brings you back, but we're taking it to the nth power, man. We're stretching. There's a lot of blowing, a lot of fun, a lot of improvisation stuff we don't know, and we got my man Emra that's going to be on percussion. So we're going to get into some fun stuff there. Uh, so yeah, come check it out, and hope to see everybody at the show, man. Looking forward to it, man. Um,
Yeah.
there's a link is in the chat. Eddie'sAddict.com event, Joe Gransden, Land of Make Believe, the music of Chuck Mangione, or you can go to Eddie'sAddict.com and buy advance tickets, man. So Eddie's is a small room, so get your tickets. Get your tickets, man. So
Yeah, man. And I'm gonna run. I'm meeting Tyrone at the Cheetah. He's waiting there for me. So
it's cold.
I missed.
It's cold, man. It's cold.
I love all these. I love all these comments, man.
I think you're telling the truth.
I hope he feels okay. I know he was going to be with us at
Last night.
Napoleon's last night, and he called and said he wasn't feeling good, and man, that's going around. A lot of people are getting sick, so I
Man, stay healthy and stay on your thing. All right, my man. So I will.
Randy's still commenting. All right, Randy.
Yeah, Randy, man, I got to hook up with Randy. Randy, come to the show. Randy, coming to the show. That's what we coming to the show, man. Yeah, Randy, like I said, if you are connected to James Bradley Jr., please send me some way to connect with him if you can. So
where does he live, James Bradley Jr.?
I don't know, man. I tried to contact him on Facebook, and he just probably not on there that much. I mean, I'm not on there at all really anymore. But I sent him a DM, so hopefully I'll get a response at some point. But we'll get to, because he would be great to bounce some stuff off of, man, and hear how certain things were done. And
he's probably got so many great stories.
Oh, he's got a million of them. He's only because he was Chuck's drummer, man. He was the only. I mean, that was another cool thing. I mean, I know I said that earlier about, but Chuck, he had his cast. He could have hired anybody he wanted. He could have went and got whoever from whoever, but he had his band. That's what separates. Man, he had a sound. He had a band. You know,
Yeah.
He had his guys. That goes a long way, man.
Yeah, yeah.
He lives in Norway or Sweden. Oh wow, check that out. That's hip. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Thanks for joining us, man. And we will see you soon.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, bro. Okay, man. All right.
Take care.
Later. All right, man. Great conversation with my man, JG. Just talking about the depth of that music from that era. Just really makes me want to kind of do a show on some of that stuff, because I think there's a lot to be learned from how those cats transitioned from being bebop cats into the groove world, and then having to sort of change their stripes, so to speak, but still come up with like just some really, really, really great music. Because like the music of all of those cats is heavy, was at one time was heavily sampled, man, by hip hop artists, especially Bob James, Herb Alpert, Chuck. You could throw George Benson, Freddie Hubbard, um, Joe Sanborn. We didn't even talk about David Sanborn, one of my all time favorites. And so there's a lot of depth in that music, and we got to find a way to preserve it. So Joe's doing a great thing with this Chuck Mangione tribute, and so come out and see the show, and we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. But yeah, Land of Make Believe. That's Tuesday, September 23rd at Eddie's Attic. Everybody knows Eddie's. And then we've got the feedback session coming up in a couple of weeks. That's going to be down at the Academy Theater in Hapeville. You got that flyer, that great flyer for us there, B. One of my favorite pictures of me and my man T. And so come join us for the feedback sessions and see the young lions, the young cats play. And here we're going to do a Q&A. We do a Q&A after every band, and we talk to them about what they were thinking, and maybe some things that they could work and could do a little bit better. And so it's like a live, it's almost, I mean, someone told me I guess it's similar to what they used to do in New York City with the actors, with the the plays, the playwrights, and the actors in the play that do the play, and they would do these workshops where they would do a similar thing. So this is kind of a little spin-off of that. I didn't know that, but that's a cool thing. So come check it out. And then we got the Latin um, rhythms thing that's going to be back in November, and I'm not sure if tickets are up for that or not, but we will find that out soon enough. And then this Saturday, check out the live stream of Carla Harris CD release, and that is at the Sandbox Studio South, and that's at 8 p.m. So that'll be broadcast on their YouTube. And like I said, I don't know what the live audience situation is for that. You can go to their website, and there's a link if you want to be a part of the audience. But looking forward to that. We got a rehearsal for that tomorrow, and then tomorrow night be at Red Light Cafe, subbing for my man Robert Boone Jr. So I will be there, and don't know who the band is, but should be great. And that's at 9 p.m. So other than that, we want to thank everybody for your support. We've been off for a couple of weeks, and then we will be off again next week because we have this concert with Joe. But and then we will be back to our regularly scheduled program for I'm not sure if that's the last Tuesday of the month, but then October we will be back on with some new shows on Tuesday nights. So thanks, guys. Great comments from everybody. I'm not sure if we had any questions. Seemed like just more comments. Just going back real quickly and checking to see if there was any comments or questions. I didn't see any, just mostly comments here. My man Steve Wright, what's going on, man? Thanks for popping in. Haven't talked to you in forever. What's going on with you, dude? Okay, great. Thank you, Randy. So he said he sent a link to this show to James. So hopefully we'll hear back from him and get him on to have a conversation. Martin, thank you. Thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for all your support. Randy, Bob, Bill Norman, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you in a minute. Bruce, hope all is well. Let's see here. Pat Chastain, how you doing, man? Didn't see you at the session last night. Ha ha ha. You're normally there. Let's see. John, James. I think that's about it. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate your support. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. All right. Thank you. See you next week or in 2 weeks.